What's good, y'all? Welcome to Coaching First, where we're giving you coaching insights, training tips, and analysis of the game of baseball so you can bring your game to the next level by your next season. Let's get into it. What's good, everybody? I'm Coach Lopez. I'm a Milwaukee-based coach with 10 years of experience. I've been coaching between high school and travel ball over the last 10 years. Travel, I'm currently coaching 17U with Milwaukee Baseball Club, so shout out. And at the varsity level, I'm an assistant at St. Augustine Prep here in Milwaukee. So big shout out to those two organizations. They gave me an opportunity to really start my coaching experience, and I'm really excited to kind of share what I've learned with you guys. Additionally, I also had the unique opportunity of being able to play college ball for 3 years at 3 different levels. So today what we're going to get into is where I went, what I learned, the challenges that I faced, and how I grew at each of these levels. And hopefully that helps you guys to kind of understand what the college journey really looks like. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so let's start out at the beginning, which would be my time in NAIA. Now, NAIA, a lot of guys don't know about this. It kind of flies under the radar a little bit, but it stands for the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics. And like I said, NAIA flies under the radar a little bit, but it is still a legitimate association as far as college athletics goes, okay? Not as popular as JUCO or NCAA. Those are the ones that are in the news that a lot of people are a lot more familiar with, but NAIA is still a viable option with a lot of high-level competition, okay? We had D1 transfers come in. Following this, we had guys go D1, D2, and really we faced a lot of high-level competition, okay? But my first challenge as far as the college experience goes was really getting into college, okay? So as a senior and as a high schooler, I wasn't really heavily recruited. I didn't have the eye-popping stats. I wasn't on a travel team. I wasn't really going to any showcases until my senior year. So looking back, I got started with the recruiting process really late, okay? But despite that, I emailed a lot of coaches. I called a lot of coaches. I went to a few local showcases. And through that work in my senior year, I was able to get the attention of a coach at a school called Cardinal Stritch University. Okay, and at that school, what I ended up doing at that school, I was playing under a coach. His name was Mike Zalecki, who to this day was the best coach that I've ever had. He kind of showed this wide-eyed freshman what it really was to play college baseball, to work hard, and to earn your spot on the team. Okay, he never sugarcoated anything with me. He never told me that I was the next guy, that I was the next man up. He told me that I had to get to work. Okay, so being there, I understood that I had to put some work in order to get into that starting lineup. Okay, so I get here after not being recruited heavily as a senior in high school, and I kind of felt like I had something to prove. So at first, this adjustment was really tough for me because, you know, when you're a high school player and you're going into college, a lot of the times you're the guy, you know. So I was the guy on my team. I was the best player on the team. I started every game, and so honestly, going into college, I expected a lot of the same from myself. Okay, so it was a real eye opener for me to not be in that position where I was going to get a lot of at-bats. I was going to be able to kind of lead the team. And for the first time in my baseball career, I had to kind of take a back seat and let other guys before me kind of show me how the game was played. Okay, so my first thing that I had to adjust to was playing time. All right, and I'm sure a lot of guys that started out, or I'm sure a lot of guys in college will tell you a lot of the same. Okay, as a freshman, we don't have a lot of freshmen tearing things up when they're at a four-year program. In JUCO, you do have that. You got freshmen that are there that are playing every game, that are dogs. You know, these are guys that have come from high-level programs, and they're going to get their opportunity to start right away. That was not the case for me. Okay, so the first time I had to take a back seat, and I had to really get to work like Coach Z was telling me. Okay, so what I did is the first day of practice, I looked at the outfielder, because I played outfield. I looked at the outfielder that had the best arm during catch, and I went and played catch with him. Shout out to Brandon Fowler. That guy really took me under his wing, and he really showed me what the game of baseball was at the college level and how hard you had to work to get after these guys that were throwing mid to high 80s and even into the 90s when we were in college, when I was in college back in 2014 through 2017. Now, even though I was a little bit upset, I was a little bit salty that I was not going to be a starter, and when I realized that I wasn't going to have a lot of playing time and that I was pretty much going to be a bench player and a depth guy further into my career, I kind of had this moment of freaking out a little bit that I didn't have my career within my own grasp, within my own hands, and in my control. Okay, it was a little bit of an issue to me that I had to let the coach do his job and put those guys that were better than me ahead of me, right? And so that's kind of one thing that college players and that I had to learn was that your ego, you got to leave that at the door, right? Everybody in college baseball, for the most part, is passionate and they're working hard and they're trying to bring their game to the next level. And you as an individual are not going to be unique in that. So that's what I had to realize. Okay, but I took advantage of this opportunity eventually when I got over the emotional side of it, and I had a conversation with Coach, and he kind of let me know what it was. So after he told me, and we were both understanding of what my role was on the team, all I had to do was get to work. Okay, so I had a lot of growth in this area as far as NAIA goes, not just as a player, as far as the physical side, my mechanics, the athletic side. Yes, absolutely, I grew and I became stronger than I ever was during this year of my life, right? But what I had to do was really get into the mental side of the game, okay? Because as a lot of coaches are going to tell you, baseball is a mental game, all right? It's a grind. And then when you go from playing a high school season that's 20 to 25 games to now you're playing college where we're playing 50 plus, and you guys are on the road, and you have 25 people on your roster, and there's 2 or 3 guys ahead of you that you got to work to get above them. Then it becomes then it becomes even more of a grind. It becomes really difficult for you to kind of break into that starting lineup. Okay. So during this time, my greatest challenge was my playing time. My second greatest challenge was my ego. All right, we kind of talked about that already. All right, but despite me working as hard as I could, despite me making as many relationships on that team as I could, and trying to really be a true teammate, unfortunately, what happened with this program is the funding to the baseball program was cut. And actually, a few years later, the whole school ended up shutting down. Okay, so Cardinal Stritch is no longer even a university that people can attend. All right, I can't even look up my stats to show you guys this in this video what I did, right? Because Cardinal Stritch is no longer around. So after that bomb was kind of dropped on us and everybody on the team, that there was no longer going to be any funding to the baseball program, all of us kind of had a decision to make. Okay, so we had to decide, are we going to stay at the school and finish our degree, or are we going to go somewhere else and continue to chase the dream? All right, and for me, I was a freshman. While I was here, I only got 2 at-bats, and I didn't really do much with them, so I had a lot more to prove to myself that I wanted to accomplish. So for me, it was time for me to transfer out of there and figure out something else for my career. After leaving NAIA, what I decided to do was to go to a junior college, and I ended up at a junior college in Illinois called College of Lake County. And that coach or that school was head coached by Heath Cummings. All right, and to this day, him and I have a little bit of a relationship. I actually saw him last summer or 2 summers ago with my 16U guys, and it was cool to kind of see that he was still getting after it there, and they are still a high level program. Okay, now when I went to JUCO, what I experienced even more than NAIA was the grind. Okay, guys in JUCO are grinders, man. These are guys that ended up playing anywhere from D3 to pro ball, right? And a lot of guys see JUCO as the place where guys go that don't have the best grades and this, that, and the other, right? And this place, College of Lake County, it definitely fell into that stereotype. But man, we had some dogs on that team, all right? There were 3 or 4 guys that ended up going D1, another 3 or 4 that ended up going D2, another couple guys that ended up going to high level D3, and everybody that we played, everywhere that we went, we had guys that were dogs that we were going against, man. This was the first time that I really went against 90 plus, okay? So we got 90 plus miles per hour here, so we have to make a completely different adjustment than I've ever seen before, right? So we're making decisions quicker, we gotta have faster bat speed, we gotta have faster decision making, right? And you really just have to know the game of baseball. When you're facing 90 miles per hour, you really got to know what to do with it. All right. So JUCO taught me the grind because we're talking about we were basically on a minor league schedule. Okay. We're leaving to Panama City Beach on an 18-hour bus drive in a coach bus, and we got to get off the bus, stretch, throw, get into a game. You know what I'm saying? So it's basically like we're on a minor league schedule, traveling all the time, traveling here and there, and you got to be ready to get off the bus and get to work. Okay? So JUCO is a completely different kind of grind. Now, what I experienced here that was better than NAIA for me personally was that I got an opportunity to play. Okay? I had a guy in front of me that ended up getting injured, and kind of the last half of the season, I was able to play in that starting position out in either right or left field. Okay, so what I did with it was not particularly great. I didn't really understand what it was to be a real hitter, to have a real hitter's mindset. I was just going up there and trying to swing at anything I thought that I could hit, right? Because I wanted my opportunity. I wanted to get in, and I didn't want to go in there and look at pitches, right? But what that ended up doing for me is it made me really impatient at the plate. It made me really jumpy. And when we're talking about 90 plus fastball, and now we're going to an 80 or a 70 mile per hour off-speed pitch, and you're not ready for that, we're going to have some problems at the plate, right? So that's what happened for me. I had some problems at the plate. And I quickly realized that in order for me to play this game at a high level in college and actually do some damage, I had to make some adjustments, okay? So JUCO was the place that I really learned how to work hard, okay? That was the biggest lesson that I took from here, was working hard, okay? When I was at Cardinal Stretch, yes, I did go to extra practices, and I was warming up with the starters, and I was trying to get as much work as I could. But when I went to JUCO, I saw what I did here, and I knew that I had to take it to another level. I knew I had more in the tank that I had to take out, okay? So this was really understanding what was my actual capacity for working, and what can I actually do to get better, right? I was at the facility after games. If I had a couple strikeouts that game and I wasn't happy with my performance, I was at the facility that night, an hour later. So when I'm at the JUCO level, I'm doing morning lifts, I'm doing batting practice before the game, we're playing games, and then after the game, I'm back at the facility. So this was really 24 hours just straight baseball for me, right? And even though here I became the strongest that I ever was, here I ended up learning how to work the hardest that I've ever worked in my life, okay? And usually with JUCO, what ends up happening, guys will stay there for 2 years and then they'll transfer. Now, I came here as a sophomore, so in my mind, I was kind of ready to transfer to a 4-year university and finish my degree. while continuing to play baseball, which brings me to the NCAA level. Now, when I went to NCAA, I ended up playing at a school called Illinois Institute of Technology in Chicago, which is not too far from where I am, which was really good for me because I got to see my family. I was the furthest from my family than I ever was, which was really tough for me mentally. But because they were able to kind of drive out, I was still able to see my pops, and we were still able to get some work in, hang out, and kind of give me some time to relax from that 24-hour baseball grind that I was on. Okay. Now, at Illinois Institute of Technology, we were under Coach Ed Ziefert, and Coach Ed, he brought us in, and really his expectation was for us to lead this team of young guys. Okay, this team had a bunch of freshmen and sophomores on that team, and they actually were transitioning from one coach to another. So the previous season was just practice for this team. They were just training. Okay, so when I got here, a lot of my teammates were really raw as far as their talent goes. They hadn't faced other guys that were college players. They hadn't faced any other college level competition, any pitching. They didn't see any hitters that were really good that they had to pitch around or understand how to pitch against. And so that part of it was really me taking on a leadership role. Okay. Which I was pretty excited about because at these past two levels, like I said, I was sitting behind somebody for those years, okay? But when I got to NCAA and I was a junior, in my mind, I was ready to kind of take that step as far as being a leader on the team and helping these guys understand what the guys before taught me, how to play college baseball, how to work hard, and what the grind actually is if you want to not only be a good player, but be a really good baseball program. Okay. Now, the leadership in itself, honestly, even though it was the best thing that I enjoyed about it, it was really the biggest challenge. Okay? Because what do a lot of these freshmen have? They have these egos, right? And me and some of these freshmen would get into it when I would address that they were not working hard or that they weren't working at the level that I wanted them to. And I had to really understand that with leadership, you got to have some give and take. Right? I was this guy that was like, man, this is my third year. I haven't been able to play. And I want to really, I want to win, man. I want to win. I'm a competitor, right? So I was working hard. I had this 24-hour mindset, and these guys were partying. These guys were doing this, that, and the other, right? And so that upset me kind of to my core as one of the leaders of the team, okay? But once I kind of got past that and I began to focus on my own growth, what I ended up doing was excelling at the plate. Okay? For the first time in my life, I had a real approach that I could apply to high-level pitching. Okay? I was looking for the right pitches at the right times. I was attacking inside the zone, and I was ready to go. Right? My hands were working quicker. I was more athletic at this point than I had ever been. I was stronger. I was faster than I had ever been in my college career, in my baseball career. So I was ready to go. Okay? And when I actually got onto the field, I ended up showing a consistency that really satisfied me by the time I got to the end of that year. So now, even though I'm having success at the plate, I finally have a leadership role, and I finally feel like my baseball career was gaining traction and that all of this was worth it. Something else that I learned here were things beyond the field, right? So I was surrounded by a lot of really smart people here, right? This is a technology school, so I'm talking about I'm surrounded by guys that are on the team that are going on to be aerospace engineers, right? And me over here at this technology school being a business major, there's a difference in the level of academic prowess that I had versus the other guys on my team, okay? So these guys, even though I was a leader on the baseball field, they kind of led me outside of that, right? I feel like I myself retained a little bit of this ego as far as the baseball side of it goes. Like, man, I'm working harder than you guys. I'm doing this, that, and the other. Why aren't you guys getting your swings in before the game? Why aren't you guys showing up to the field 2 hours early before the game like I am? But On the other hand, they showed me that there were things beyond baseball that were important to their lives as well. Okay, so here, right, I learned that that 24-hour baseball mindset, what was going to end up happening for me is that I was going to end up burning out. Right, so I learned a little bit of balance from these guys, and that kind of helped me out when I went beyond playing college baseball and beyond just chasing being a player and really chasing my dream of ending up being a professional. Okay, and even though this is where it ended for me, right? I didn't end up going to play pro ball after that. I didn't transfer somewhere else and continue chasing the dream, but this is where it ended for me. But for me, ending on this note, where I felt like, okay, I finally have an approach. I finally figured out how to hit against high-level guys. For me, I felt like all of that was worth it to get to that point where I learned a skill that I was able to retain and polish for the rest of my life after that. All right, so just to give a quick recap, when I was at NAIA, the first thing that I learned as a freshman was to leave my ego at the door, right? I'm not the guy anymore. I wasn't going to be the guy on that team, and it was time for me to really get to work. Okay, when I got to JUCO, I really learned what that work looked like. Okay, I learned how to work hard day in, day out, sun up to sundown, and not have any downtime that I was spending away from baseball or goofing off or getting distracted, right? And then finally, when I got to the NCAA level, I learned leadership. I learned how to polish some of my baseball skills, and I also learned that balance in life, okay? But all the way through it all, the most important thing was commitment to the process, okay? And that goes all the way through all three levels, no matter how high you end up playing, even into pro ball, right? It's committing to the growth rather than am I on a D1 baseball team, right? Because if I was D1 and I was sitting the bench, right? If I was at a high level place and I was sitting on the bench and only getting 2 at-bats, I knew I wasn't going to be happy with that, right? So it's committing to the process of getting better as a player and being able to do that consistently without giving up and getting distracted. Okay, that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you guys for tuning into Coaching First and listening to my journey through college baseball at these 3 different levels. If you guys want coaching insights, if you guys want training tips and analysis of the game of baseball, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, because we got 3 months in the Midwest until we start the high school season, and we're getting you guys ready to kill it this year. All right, catch you guys next time. Peace.